Hello, everyone, and welcome back to 305 Insights. I'm your host, Alan Somerton, and today we're doing an instant reaction on FSU's 77 to 3 victory against East Texas A&M. Now, obviously, this was expected. I mean, I don't even know what the point spread was because it wasn't even showing up on Hard Rock Bet, but I'm sure it was in the 40s or 50s. But FSU came away with this game with exactly what they needed. You got some starters to get some extra reps in after a hard fought game last week, and defense showed up as well. But overall, the team stats were pretty insane. I mean, they had 29 first downs. They were 10 of 14 on third down efficiency, 3 of 3 on fourth down. They had 729 yards of total offense with 361 passing yards and 368 rushing yards. Now, they did have a fumble towards the end of the game in the fourth quarter, but that was by the fourth string quarterback, Michael Grant. But overall, just again, a day that you walk away from outside of injuries, possibly to James Williams and Squirrel White, which hopefully we'll get updates on those shortly, as those not being that serious. However, Tommy Castellanos, 7 of 10, 230 yards, 3 touchdowns. And the first guy off the bench, Kevin Sperry, the true freshman, 4 of 5 for 61 yards and 2 touchdowns. Tommy ran 4 times for 7 yards, and Kevin ran 3 times for 22 yards. Brock Glenn came in for more mop-up duty, 3 of 3 for 56 yards with a touchdown, and he also ran the ball 1 time for 10 yards. Michael Grant got 1 pass off for 14 yards. And then you had a laundry list of people who got touches this game for rushing. Sam Singleton Jr., along at 53. Then he had 4 carries for 82 yards with a touchdown. Zay Parks, 10 for 61 with a touchdown. Mekhi Danzy had his reverse run for 53 yards and a touchdown. Chroma, 5 for 37. Sawchuk, 8 for 35 with 2 touchdowns. Jeremiah Johnson, 5 for 25. Jalen Lucas, 4 for 23. Cam Davis, 2 for 13. I really thought Cam Davis would get a few more carries, but again, you're working in people who just need to get something on tape. This is one of those games where you're going to have guys who really aren't going to play the rest of the season. So I believe next week's another one of these easy games, but this is one of the ones where you see what people can do and then you don't burn their red shirt. Squirrel White had 1 carry for 7 yards. Kazeel Holmes had 3 for 2. Michael Grant had a sack for -9 yards. Big offensive player of the day, Deuce Robinson, 100%. 5 receptions, 173 yards, 2 touchdowns. An amazing one-handed grab. That was, I believe, 42-yard catch. He had an 82-yard play as well. Sawchuk, 1 reception for 53 yards and a touchdown. Sawchuk really had a solid overall game. He had 3 touchdowns overall, and I think he has 4 in the year. Chroma had 1 reception for 43 yards and a touchdown. Amari Williams had 1 reception for 35 yards and a touchdown, and he was also credited with half a sack. So plays on both sides of the ball for the young kid who everybody thought would come in here and they would focus on him being a defensive end. But the coaching staff had decided late in the summer that he's still going to play on both sides of the ball. Elijah Moore made an appearance with 1 catch for 15 yards. The true freshman Tariq Mallory, 1 catch for 14 yards. Mekhi Dancy, 2 for 14. Chase Lofton, 1 for 6. Jane Lucas, 1 for 5. And Boggs had a touchdown catch for 3 yards. On the defensive side, Daryl Jackson Jr., for the few series that he was in, looked like a man among boys. Started off the game pretty much with a sack, but his credit with half a sack. Tyon Coleman had a sack. AJ Cottrell had a sack, or half a sack. Jason Jenkins, half a sack. Mari Williams, half a sack. Earl Little Jr., again, all over the place before he was taken out. He had an interception as well, outside of the pass deflection that he had. Jeremiah Wilson had a pass deflection and an interception. So overall, this was the game that you expect from this team. Only thing we have to worry about is if the injuries were serious, but this just shows that there is no hesitation with this team to do what needs to be done. And as silly as that sounds, going up against East Texas A&M, you got to remember that this offseason was basically a complete purge of the culture of last year. And a team that went 2-10 last year has now matched its win total in its first 2 games. A team that had scored 19 or 20 touchdowns total last year in 12 games scored 11 this game, and they scored 31 points against Alabama. Now, you're obviously not going to take away a lot from this game in the sense of the kids went out there and did what they needed to do in terms of just going out there, scoring on every possession basically until you brought in the walk-ons. And it's refreshing to see the infectious nature of certain personalities on this team. You're seeing Darrell Jackson play with a certain fire that he may not have necessarily played on a consistent basis last year. Earl Little Jr. has been put in a position to succeed like no other this season. And you're seeing why this coaching staff was ranting and raving about him during the multiple camps this offseason. You're seeing the well-balanced running games. Yeah, you lose Roydell Williams for a few games, but it looks like Gavin Sawchuk is stepping up and becoming the initial bell cow. Again, he had 2 rushing touchdowns this game. He had a reception for a touchdown this game. And you still have Chroma behind him. You still have Keziah Holmes. If you really need to dig deep, you can use Jalen Lucas, you can use Cam Davis, you can use Sam Singleton. There's a lot of depth at the running back position, even though you are going to miss Roydell Williams' ability to block. This is, again, refreshing to see because you can see this team buying into the process. Let's go in there, let's get our stats real quick, and let's let the other kids play. Deuce Robinson had himself his day. Career highs across the board. Tommy Castellanos got to work on some deep ball throws rather than just, for the majority, some short intermediary passes that they were kind of focusing on last game. And again, you had some deep plays to score wide and whatnot last game, but still, you were able to open up the playbook a little more in the sense of doing what you want to do without revealing too much to opponents because of the advantage that you had with your players and the skill sets involved. It was a very methodical game in the sense of watching it and understanding. Obviously, this is going to be an absolute destruction of one team. But again, coming into this season, if I haven't said this before, I'll say it again. I was really looking forward to the coaches coaching the players up. And through 2 games, it is a night and day difference between Tony White and Adam Fuller, between Gus Malzahn and Alex Atkins, plus Mike Norvell, who was calling plays as well. This is what I take away from this game, is that the culture is on a positive trajectory. You're having some guys who are still here from last year, who bought into the process and are making sure everybody else does as well. You're able to see, again, some of the future players like Sperry and Kromenov playing together. Saw Boggs catch his first touchdown pass. There are players who, obviously, Kromenov and Boggs should have an impact this season. But and Kromenov more than Boggs, because Boggs is going to be behind Robinson and Squirrel White. 4 touches because, again, Gus Malzahn isn't necessarily a guy who's going to toss the pigskin everywhere. Now, it's not going to be as bad as it was against Alabama where they only tossed it 14, 15 times. I mean, you're just looking at today where, okay, put it this way. The average that Gus is looking for is around 20 throws a game. Ideally on the 22 range because that means you're still having a good running attack, which is primarily what Gus cares about. And that's where the limited touches are going to come for Boggs. You still got to compete with the tight ends and Pittman and maybe Landon Thomas, Mari Williams, and whatnot. But this type of game hasn't been seen since probably the Jimbo era in terms of the efficiency and the effectiveness of the plays that were occurring, which is, again, why this is exciting. It's a game that obviously you're expected to win by a large amount, but that doesn't mean you can't enjoy the little things that are occurring with this game. And with the Florida State fan base, they need to enjoy these types of games. And it was really refreshing to see post Alabama. You know that this is going to be a ridiculous game. And the fans still showed up and showed out, at least for the first half, and then start getting ridiculous. Then they're going to go about their day. But overall, they did show up and make sure that a lot of people understood that they understand that this is a different season. And again, even in this game, talking about, we're expecting 22 to 24 throws. They only threw the ball 20 times. And they ran the ball 51. So again, you had a lot of clock burning because of the amount of times you scored and just focusing on the run. But it's crazy to think, folks, that even in this game, they ran the ball only 2 more times than they did against Alabama. Food for thought. With that being said, again, really impressive seeing the guys like Earl Little Jr., Terrell Jackson really set the tone initially. And again, bringing in those transfers on offense and Tommy Castellanos and Deuce Robinson to make the impact that they're making. You're seeing the glimpses of what they expect against inferior opponents, and you would like to see that moving forward against ACC and out-of-conference opponents for the rest of the year. So that's it for today's episode. Again, not a lot to dive into. We read off a lot of the stats. And again, if you're an FSU fan, you're just hyped to see this efficiency and the buy-in from the team on both sides of the ball. You know the drill at the end of the episode. You can find us on YouTube. Subscribe, turn those notifications on, leave a comment, Apple Podcast, subscribe on there, turn notifications on, rate us 5 stars on that one. You can find us on Spotify as well if you want to follow us there and rate us as well. Thanks for listening to this episode, folks. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll catch you next time here on 305 Insights. Have a good one, folks.